The school bus rattled along the red dust road that wound through Sedona Creek Nature Preserve, its old diesel engine humming a lazy counter-melody to the dawn birds. Inside, 23 seventh graders bounced like loose marbles, squabbling over window seats, trading hologram stickers, and pretending not to be nervous about the overnight field trip. His. Carmen Ramirez, the science teacher whose mismatched socks were as legendary as her patience, stood at the front clutching a clipboard. She reminded everyone, again, that the purpose of the excursion was to collect soil samples, sketch local flora, and practice basic field first aid. No chasing chipmunks, no cliff selfies, and definitely no wandering off. Her voice was warm but firm, and it threaded through the chaos with practiced certainty. The children half listened, half dreamed, until the bus lurched to a stop beneath a giant juniper that smelled of resin and rain yet to fall. Jordan McAllister, the irrepressible class clown, was first down the steps. Phone held aloft like a microphone, he was live-streaming to the 3 loyal subscribers who tolerated his non-stop jokes. Mei Chen, pocket sketchbook in hand, followed quietly, her eyes mapping the geometry of the canyon walls. Luis Ortega's handheld game made optimistic 8-bit beeps until his battery died mid-level, leaving him scowling. Aisha Patel, who kept a folded photograph of her late father, a Marine medic, in her backpack, checked the group's medical kit for the 3rd time. Samuel Sam Brooks, the gentle coder whose speech stuttered around strangers but flowed around circuit boards, stepped off last, carrying a shoebox crammed with drone parts, sensor cables, and the hope that he might spot a golden eagle. Ranger Thomas Doyle waited by the trailhead, thumbs hooked into a belt, carved with faded ranger insignia. He delivered the standard lecture about respecting wildlife, packing out trash, and, in a sudden stern aside, not approaching any strays. "Coyotes crossbreed with dogs out here," he said, the desert wind tugging his gray mustache. "If you spot one, especially a friendly one, keep your distance. Nature handles nature." The warning floated above the students and drifted away like pollen. With clipboards distributed and water bottles accounted for, the expedition started down the dusty path that sliced between rust-colored boulders and tufts of sage. The air smelled metallic, as though lightning prowled just beyond the horizon, though the sky was a polished blue coin. Somewhere among the reeds, a cricket chirped, but the sound was swallowed by a low, distant rumble that made the canyon tremble. "Thunder," Doyle muttered, frowning at the clear sky. No one questioned him. The class moved single file, laughter and footsteps echoing, until the path opened into a broad wash veined with pale clay. Here, in the cracked cradle of an ancient river. May paused, head cocked. She heard it, a high-pitched whimper, thin as thread, yet unmistakable. She turned toward a pile of tumbleweeds caught against a toppled log. Kneeling, she parted the brittle branches and gasped. A puppy, barely 3 months old, lay curled in the dust. Its fur was a dark swirl of gold and black, its paws too big for its body, one of them bleeding from a gash that still oozed fresh crimson. But what seized May's attention was the tiny rectangle of metal embedded just below the scruff. A sleek tag, no bigger than a postage stamp, that blinked faint blue. The puppy's gray eyes met hers like storm clouds looking for shelter. "Guys, over here," she whispered. Aisha arrived first, medical kit already unzipped. Jordan followed with the phone, filming the dirt with breathless commentary. Luis hovered, unsure whether to pet or flee. Sam crouched, his curiosity magnetized by the glowing tag. Ranger Doyle finally noticed the huddle and strode over, boots crunching. One look at the animal and his brow knotted. "He's hurt," Aisha said. "I can clean the wound, but—" "No," Doyle interrupted. "Leave it. Coy dog, maybe. Tracking chip. Might be part of a study. Protocol says we don't interfere. But he's bleeding, May protested. And he's scared, Sam added, voice tiny but firm. The ranger sighed, glancing at the distant sky as that rumble rolled again. Students, the canyon's full of echoes. Don't add trouble. He signaled Ms. Ramirez to move the group along. Reluctantly, she started herding the others. Doyle adjusted his hat and joined her, unaware that Jordan had begun imitating rattlesnake sounds on a voice-changer app. The ranger spun, alarmed. Half the class shouted in mock panic, scattering up the trail. In the ruckus, May scooped the puppy into her jacket. Luis pulled off his hoodie and formed a makeshift pouch. Aisha wrapped gauze around the bleeding paw. Sam snapped a close-up of the tag, the blue light blinking with an almost urgent rhythm. When order was restored, Doyle attributed the scare to overzealous drama and marched ahead, muttering about city kids. The puppy, now hidden beneath Luis's hoodie, only whimpered twice. No one, not even Ms. Ramirez, noticed. The hike ended at a picnic clearing where the smell of sun-warmed pine filled lunchboxes with invisible spice. While the class cataloged soil samples, the secret caretakers slipped food scraps to the puppy, now christened Echo because of that ghostly thunder and the canyon that birthed him. Echo licked their fingers gratefully, the blue tag blinking like a quiet heartbeat. But Ranger Doyle's watchful gaze kept them nervous, and when the bus finally trundled back toward town, every bump jostled Echo's hidden sanctuary beneath the bench seat. Approaching Winston Middle School, the bus passed a convoy of black SUVs with tinted windows and unfamiliar insignia, stylized silver triangles against midnight paint. Their engines purred like big cats held on thin leashes. Jordan filmed them, whispering, "Men in black crossover confirmed." Nobody laughed. The SUVs exuded a hush that swallowed giggles. The bell at Winston wasn't a bell at all, but a synthesized marimba melody installed 2 years earlier to reduce stress. It chimed as children disembarked, and Ms. Ramirez dispersed them with homework reminders, blind to Luis's oddly bulging backpack. Inside the art room, a storage closet lined with easels and canvases became Echo's infirmary. Aisha cleaned his paw. May stroked his ears. Sam rummaged for tools. On Sam's laptop, the photograph of the tag magnified to reveal embossed letters. RXT1 Biotag, property of Auratech Defense. A quick search delivered rumors. Auratech was a clandestine robotics contractor rumored to build autonomous combat mechs nicknamed Goliaths. Hulking prototypes seen only in leaked grainy photos featuring red-eyed behemoths stalking desert test ranges. Sam swallowed. Echo, with a puppy sneeze, head-butted his knee. A fire alarm drill erupted then, sudden shrieks that sent students spilling into hallways. The quartet seized the chaos to relocate Echo to the IT lab where Sam's tools resided. Layers of cardboard and a substitute teacher's coat formed a temporary kennel under a workbench. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Echo's tag pulsed faster. The IT lab door banged open. Vice Principal Basil Hawthorne, a man whose suits were rumored to whisper mortgage rates when he walked, glared over half-moon glasses. "Mr. Brooks, Ms. Chen, Ms. Patel, Mr. Ortega, why aren't you outside for the drill?" His gaze swept the room, stopping on the cardboard pile. Echo sniffed. Jordan, who had slipped in behind Hawthorne, let out a theatrical sneeze loud enough to rattle the fluorescent tubes. "Allergies, sir. Sawdust," he offered. Hawthorne shuddered. He hated dust, and retreated, muttering about tomorrow's special assembly starring donors from a tech giant called Auratech. The door clicked shut. Silence collapsed around them until Echo yelped and scratched. Sam, heart racing, connected his prototype drone handset to the metal tag. Lines of code spooled across his screen, ice blue on charcoal. An encrypted file demanded a passphrase. Sam's stuttered breath hesitated, then typed "Echo." The file blossomed into a 3D hologram, a rotating puppy silhouette stamped T1 Therapup prototype. A module list scrolled: heart rate sync, emotional biofeedback, search and rescue subroutine, combat zone morale support. The revelation cracked open an entire universe. Echo wasn't a menace, but a field therapy robot disguised as a dog, meant to calm soldiers under fire. The puppy nudged Sam's hand, as though affirming its purpose. Jordan paced. Live stream abandoned. "Cool! We've basically adopted a furry Iron Man suit for PTSD." May scowled. Aisha cradled Echo, whispering promises that no one would turn him into a weapon. Sam proposed notifying Auratech, but only with conditions. They drafted a video. Seated in front of the school crest, Echo on Aisha's lap, the 4 rescuers flanking. Jordan's phone, recorded as Sam, voice trembling yet resolute, said, "We found your prototype. He's injured, but safe. We'll return him if you guarantee he won't be weaponized. Meet us tomorrow at noon on our field. If you try anything shady, we stream this to every news outlet." They attached a ping trace to the encrypted address nested in the tag's firmware and hit send. Outside, the mysterious rumble crescendoed until windows rattled, lighting panels flickered, and the janitor's mop bucket danced. Students screamed, assuming earthquake. Teachers herded them under doorframes. Echo barked frantically. Then, just as suddenly, the vibrations ceased, leaving the building trembling in an aftertaste of silence. Night spread its velvet across the campus, stitched with sodium vapor streetlights. The rescuers established shifts. May sketched Echo sleeping, her charcoal lines tender. Jordan recorded a night watch vlog wearing a paper crown. Luis scrolled survival forums about coyotes, but kept glancing at Echo as if expecting him to sprout rockets. Sam soldered a spare battery to his handset so he could monitor the tag's telemetry. Aisha, between rounds of administering antibiotic ointment, confided that her father used to say even battlefields needed reminders of gentleness. Echo felt like that reminder. Near midnight, Sam's handset chirped. A location ping bouncing off the tag. Destination confirmed. He swallowed. The coordinate matched Winston Middle School. Just then, outside the computer lab windows, shadowy quadrupeds stalked the football grass. They were larger than wolves but metal, their jointed legs gleaming like balletic pistons. Red optic sensors swept the dark. One paused, tilting its head at the building before trotting on silent servos beyond sight. Sam killed the lights. The group pressed against the glass, adrenaline thundering louder than their hearts. Echo didn't bark. He watched calmly, as though recognizing family. Dawn tinted the sky pearl gray. Hawthorne's morning announcement crackled. "Students, please note, we are honored to host representatives from Auratech Defense at noon for an exciting STEM demonstration. All classes will gather on the South Lawn. Attendance is mandatory." The rescuers exchanged looks. Ms. Ramirez, sensing their tension, asked gently if they were all right. They lied with the practiced skill of cornered raccoons. At 11:30, black SUVs returned, escorted by tan semi-trailers that idled like restrained dragons. Uniformed security in matte helmets fanned out, radios murmuring coded chatter. Vice Principal Hawthorne hovered, wringing his hands in equal parts terror and delight, already envisioning the auditorium's new AV system financed by corporate largesse. He never noticed Echo nestled in Aisha's backpack, only smiled at the well-behaved children. Seconds before noon, the school clock ticked like a detonator. A hush fell over the lawn as the semi-trailer's panels hissed open and hydraulic ramps descended. Goliath Mk-7th units lumbered into view, towering armored quadrupeds, obsidian plating catching sunlight like oil on water. Their footsteps were seismic drumbeats. Gasps rippled through students and teachers, awe braided with fear. Overhead, a swarm of micro-drones spiraled, LED arrays forming the phrase, "Thank you, Winston Middle School." A sleek hover limo, curves modeled after stingrays, drifted downward on anti-grav thrusters. When the gull wing door lifted, a woman in a teal jumpsuit stepped onto the grass. Dr. Mara Soleil, CEO of Orotech, walked as though gravity negotiated with her rather than commanded. She knelt, arms open. Aisha set Echo down. The puppy limped forward, tail helicoptering, and Dr. Soleil's face softened. She scanned the tag with a wrist console, verifying identity, then stroked Echo's head with unscripted affection. Microphones extended from drone stems, broadcasting her voice across the field. Students, faculty, Ranger Doyle, thank you. Echo, codenamed Therapup T1, escaped during a sonic stress test yesterday. He is a prototype companion designed not for violence, but for healing. Murmurs rose. The Goliaths behind her crouched, weapons conspicuously absent, presenting only medkits and engineering tools housed in fold-out pods. Samuel stepped forward, legs trembling. Will he be forced onto actual battlefronts? The microphone captured the quaver in his question. Dr. Soleil met his gaze. Echo will go where he's needed most. Field hospitals, disaster zones, refugee camps, never as a weapon, always as comfort. But first, he requires socialization with the bravest helpers I know. She gestured to the 4 rescuers. With your principal's permission, Orotech will fund Winston's new robotics lab and appoint Echo as canine in residence. We hope you'll assist our engineers in refining his empathy algorithms. Cheers erupted, louder than pep rallies. Hawthorne tried to claim credit, but Ms. Ramirez gently pulled the children forward so cameras caught their astonished faces. The Goliaths knelt, metal knees compressing with hydraulic sighs, LEDs scrolling, "Thank you for your kindness." Echo barked jubilantly, as if directing the symphony of celebration. Dr. Soleil produced crystalline data drives labeled Scholarship Access. She pressed them into the rescuers' hands. Courage, she said, deserves recognition. Classes dismissed early, though few students went home. Around the new portable lab containers, gifted on the spot by Orotech, children swarmed to tinker with modular circuits and exoskeleton kits. Echo trotted from group to group, sensors flaring joyous teal whenever a child smiled. Ranger Doyle, who had rushed over from the preserve upon hearing the news, found May sketching the puppy amidst humming machinery. He removed his hat and apologized quietly for not listening. May merely handed him her first sketch of Echo, signed in charcoal. Doyle's eyes misted like dew on granite. The afternoon melted into a golden haze. Sam's repaired drone sailed overhead, camera streaming a bird's-eye panorama of the schoolyard peppered with metallic giants and human laughter. Jordan filmed a heartfelt vlog titled, "We saved a robot puppy and got BattleBots." That night, it garnered 50,000 views, an ocean compared to his usual trickle. Luis, emboldened, asked an Orotech engineer a barrage of questions about servo tolerances. The engineer answered every one. Days became weeks, and Echo's paw healed into a faint scar beneath silky fur. The puppy learned to carry small medical pouches and to detect cortisol spikes, nuzzling any student whose stress levels rose before exams. In Robotics Club, Echo sat like a living mascot, tail sweeping cables. The Goliath units occasionally returned for software updates, drawing crowds bigger than football championships. Each time, they knelt to Echo first, screening him like a prince assessing knights. One afternoon, during a rainstorm that rattled skylights, Aisha sat in the lab alone, holding her father's photograph. Thunder rolled, and her breathing quickened. Echo sensed the spike. He padded over, rested his head on her knee, and emitted a soft, oscillating hum calibrated to lower heart rate. Aisha's tears mixed with laughter as she realized the hum matched the lullaby her father used to whistle. Sam, from across the room, caught the frequency on a spectrograph. It wasn't random, it was learning. Meanwhile, Vice Principal Hawthorne discovered humility. He still dreamed of donor plaques, but he also volunteered to test exoskeleton gloves that compensated for his old tennis elbow. When a skeptical school board inspector arrived, Hawthorne guided her through the lab, Echo trotting ahead, and spoke not of grants, but of gratitude. In late spring, Aurotech invited the 4 rescuers to visit their desert test facility. A chartered eco-bus whisked them across sandstone plains to a domed campus, where engineers in neon-striped lab coats controlled weather simulations. They watched a squadron of Robo-Pup siblings, T2 through T20, navigate a mock earthquake zone, sniffing out heat signatures, projecting holographic lullabies onto collapsed walls. Sam contributed code that optimized drone pup coordination algorithms. May created soothing decal patterns for the pup's carapaces. Luis suggested adding faux fur patches to reduce uncanny valley responses. Jordan documented everything, editing the footage into a documentary that would eventually win a mid-school film festival. At the farewell banquet, Dr. Soleil toasted the students with sparkling cider. "When we measure heroism, we often count medals and missions," she said, her words ringing like bronze bells. "But your heroism was measured in gauze, courage, and a backpack that smelled of peanut butter sandwiches." Remember that technology is only as ethical as the hands that guide it. They returned to Winston under a violet dusk. The bus doors hissed open, and Echo leapt out first, dash lights shimmering beneath his fur like bottled sunrise. Students on the sidewalk cheered. Some held hand-painted signs. "Welcome home, Echo!" Ms. Ramirez wiped her glasses, blaming dust that wasn't there. Summer approached, but Echo's legacy had already rewritten the school's culture. Bullying incidents dropped. Peer mediation sessions increased. A weekly kindness log started, where acts of empathy earned programmable LED badges. Even the cafeteria menu improved, after Echo refused processed lunch meat, prompting the administration to source local produce. In staff meetings, teachers began referencing the Echo effect, the ripple of compassion that spread from one small rescue. On the final day of classes, a violent storm brewed. Real thunder, not sonic tests, dousing the town in curtains of rain. Power flickered. As the dismissal bell sang, the gym roof groaned under pooling water. Emergency alarms howled. Panic scattered students like birds. Sprinklers malfunctioned, spewing chlorinated haze. In the chaos, 7th grader Ellie Ruiz, who used crutches after a recent surgery, slipped on flooded tiles near the auditorium. Echo, sensing distress, bounded down the hallway, paws slapping water. His sensors triangulated Ellie's elevated heartbeat. He skidded to her side, projected an infrared beacon visible on security monitors, then tugged her backpack strap, guiding her toward a safe corner behind a trophy case. Meanwhile, Sam tapped into the building's smart grid, rerouting emergency power to stairwell lights. May and Jordan organized a bucket chain to drain the rooftop via the janitor's closet hose, Luis coordinating with maintenance staff who normally ignored student suggestions. By the time firefighters arrived, the situation was under control. No injuries beyond a sprained wrist. The fire chief declared that coordination between students, faculty, and the little canine robot prevented a roof collapse. Local news broadcast footage of Echo wearing a reflective vest, children chanting his name. Letters poured in from other districts asking how to obtain therapups for their own safety programs. The district superintendent, dazzled by the sudden fame, greenlit expansion of the robotics lab into a full STEM wing. Late that night, Ms. Ramirez locked the classroom doors. Echo sat at her feet, eyes glowing soft amber in night mode. She whispered, "Thank you, pequeño hero." Echo wagged his tail and leaned into her leg. Outside, thunder faded into quiet rainfall that smelled of renewal. Inside, the hush was thick with possibility. Years later, people would forget the details of the storm, the model numbers of the Goliaths, even the conference where Jordan accepted a scholarship for digital journalism. But they remembered Echo, the puppy who entered their lives bleeding and afraid, and left them braver, kinder, wired for wonder. They remembered how spontaneous generosity summoned an army of robots not to conquer, but to kneel in gratitude. They remembered that sometimes the loudest thunder wasn't a weapon's roar, but the echo of a heartbeat amplified by friendship. And somewhere, in an arid test range beyond city lights, a new generation of therapups bounded across simulated rubble, their embedded tags blinking steady blue. Each tag carried a tribute line encoded deep within its firmware. Inspired by the guardians of Winston Middle School, engineers often asked who those guardians were, and Dr. Soleil would smile softly. "Children," she'd answer, "who proved that the smallest act of mercy can rewrite any algorithm." Echo himself spent his semi-retirement dozing beneath Ms. Ramirez's desk, ears twitching at the shuffle of homework papers. On quiet afternoons, she'd scratch his chin and reread the modest plaque mounted above the lab door, a plaque Hawthorne ordered without fanfare. "This space exists because compassion does." Students touched it for luck before exams, leaving fingerprints like painted constellations. Echo's sensors logged every smile, archiving them in a database of hope. One crisp autumn morning, alumni returned for homecoming. Jordan, now hosting a popular science adventure show, arrived with a camera crew. May, studying biomedical illustration, carried a portfolio of robotic animal sketches. Luis, interning with Auratech, zoomed in on an electric motorbike. Sam, research fellow in humane AI, rolled a cart bearing a new prototype, Echo 2, designed for pediatric hospitals. They gathered around the original Echo, now grayer around the muzzle but still bright-eyed. They knelt, just as the Goliaths once did, and the old puppy wagged as if to say, "See? The Echo travels. The Echo endures." The brass band struck up a march in the distance, and Ms. Ramirez called the roll, her voice wobbling with pride. For a moment, the years collapsed, and the field trip was yesterday, and a wounded pup still slept in a torn hoodie, smelling of canyon dust and childhood bravery. Then, the moment passed into memory, echoing forever. And in that resonance, ringing across canyons, classrooms, and the circuitry of mechanical hearts, the lesson thrummed clear. Heroism begins with empathy, and the largest miracles often follow the gentlest of hands.